Hey guys, welcome back to my Java series. Today we're going to be going over if-else conditions in Java. And if-else conditions, based on what we did in the last video on conditionals and booleans, if-else statements are a way of telling our program to run code on certain conditions, and if certain conditions are not met, then we'll execute a different piece of code. Now, I'll show you an example of what I mean by this. So right now, the way I have our program set up is I have an input here from the user. And that input's going to, actually, let's change this. Let's take it to get the user's age. So we'll ask for a number. And because we did this, I'm just going to change this to int. Okay. So what we're going to do here is to write an if-else statement, to write conditional if-else statements. What we need to do is we need to write if, and then in our brackets, in our parentheses, we need to write the actual condition. So let's say if the user is over 19. Let's say if the user is over 16. If input is greater than 16, okay, we'll print out you can drive. Now, this looks exactly as it sounds. So if the user is greater than 16, we're going to print you can drive. Okay, now else, like I said, the whole point of if-else conditions are executing codes on certain conditions. So in this case, the condition is if the user is greater than 16. So I'm just going to change this to age just so that it's clearer. And then else, so if they're not 16, if not above 16, then you're going to execute this piece of code. So then we're going to print you are too young. To drive. And in this case, we execute the else condition if the if condition is not met. We execute this else if and only if this if condition is not met. So if this if condition was met, this will not get printed. Okay, so in this case, let's actually run our program. So we'll run, and it's going to prompt me for my age. So let's say I'm 12. Okay, that's not true, but it says 12. My program will print you are too young to drive because this condition here is not met. 12 is less than 16. So we go to this else block and we get you are too young to drive. However, if I were to say I was 17, I would get you can drive. And that's because 17 is greater than 16. Okay, now I'm going to add something else here. Obviously, we can do stuff like we can add, based on our last video, we know that there's other operators such as the greater than or equal to operator. So here, if I was 16, then I could drive because 16 is less or is greater than or equal to 16. So I'll write 16. It's going to say you can drive. So that's where that comes from. Now, with other, there's also the else if condition. So let's say this, okay. I have an idea. Okay, so let's say if age is 19, greater than 19, let's say, or 18 in Canada. Let's say if age is greater than 18, you can say you can drink. Okay. Else if. Now, this else if condition here is will only execute if this condition is not met. Once again, okay. Whoops. So there's other. You can also do. I'm going to illustrate this now. Now, let's say this condition is not met. You could do another if block. The problem with this another if block is that this will always get checked. So if I say age is greater than 17, and I'll just say you are older than 16. If I do this if here, and I do another if here, this is actually going to, if I don't want this to execute, let's say I only want this to execute if this is false. Well, this is this is not the right way to go about it, because this will check it regardless, even if this is false or true. What we need to do is do else if. Okay, and what else if does is, okay, let's go through this. Let's say I'm 17. Okay, in this case, this condition is not going to met. Okay, now let's say I'm 18. Sorry, if I'm 18, this condition is not going to get met. Okay, because 18 is not greater than 18. And then let's say, and then because I'm 18, this will get executed because this was not satisfied. However, this is satisfied. Okay, and then else would not get executed because this else if was satisfied. Okay, so the way you should think about this is it's going to go top to bottom. Okay, so if the if is satisfied, the else if and the else are never going to get satisfied. Okay, if the else if is satisfied, then the else is not going to get satisfied. And if neither of these two are satisfied, then this one will get satisfied. So I'm going to make these more descriptive or just easier to understand. So let's say you are 17 or younger. Okay, and I'm going to say you are older than 18. Okay, so just so that this is clear, I'm going to go through an example. So let's say my age here is 18. Okay, so in that case, this condition will get satisfied. So like, let's say I'm 18, you were to say you were older than 17, okay? Because the first condition was not met, however, the second condition was met because we did else if. This else never gets executed. This if else is one chain, one block, we could say. Or I guess you wouldn't say them blocks because they're both individual blocks, but they're all they're all part of each other. So that's why it's important to use else if instead of an if, because if we change this to an if, what's going to happen here is, let's say, just so that this demonstrates a better example, let's say that I'm 19, okay? So in this case, I'm 19, and when I write 19, what's going to happen is this condition is going to get met, okay? But because this is an else if, this is no longer part of this if-else statement chain, if you will, okay? So then this becomes its own chain, okay? So then it executes these two if-else statements as its own chain, and because of that, age greater than 17, that is true because I'm 19. So then what happens is this gets executed and this gets executed, okay? Because this if and this else are now their own chain, okay? Because I didn't make this an else or an else if, this chain got removed. So now when I type in I'm 19, I get you're older than 18 and you are older than 17. And back to my example, we can have more than one else if we want. So let's say, let's change this else. Let's get rid of this else. Okay, else if age is greater than 16. We'll do the same thing. You're older than 16. Okay, and once again, it goes sequentially, so we'll look at top to bottom. So if this one's executed, then this will be executed. If this is true, then this will get executed. If this is true, this will get executed. If this is true, this will get executed. And we go top down. And then at the end, we don't always have to, but in the end, if none of these conditions are met, then we'll execute the else. So we'll just print out you are 16 or younger. So yeah, and also in regards to printing sequentially, if I do this, right, they're both the same condition. Now, which one? I'm gonna make this first print. A second print, sorry. Now, which one do you think will get executed first? They're both the same condition. However, logically, remember, these get printed sequentially. And because they get printed sequentially, the first print would get executed. So in this case, let's say I'm 17, so we'll get first print because this is the first condition. And because they run sequentially, the first one will get printed. So I think that's it with in regards to if-else conditions. They're actually a pretty easy concept to understand once you get practicing with them. I suggest going through a program like this where you just mess around and see what works and what doesn't. If-else conditions are the base, one of the basis and fundamentals of computer programming and coding. So I suggest you get comfortable with them because you'll be using them a lot in your code. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care, guys.